Hey everyone, it's Dacian Miller, and we are here with our this week's episode of Whiteboard Wednesday. So hopefully everybody's been doing well. Weather's breaking here where I am, so I'm uber happy. Not that I can't make do wherever I am, but not liking the cold so much anymore. So here I am, right? Anyway, all right. So this week, right, we're going to take a look at how and why to break your techniques, right, and why getting fixated on given kata as though there's something special in and of themselves is a limitation, right? Let me tell you a little story here. Last week, with my Platinum Inner Circle guys, we were discussing Mutodori, right? Mutodori, normally translated as unarmed against a sword, right? But what I did was I pulled together a whole bunch of lessons from Hatsumi Sensei and my other teachers along the way, and with regards to this kind of thing, right? And so, again, people normally make the assumption that they see it and this is what it means, and then they just run around, right? Like a little kid who's got a quick, easy answer kind of thing, right? And while it does translate to no sword or no blade catch, right? Mutodori, right? One of the lessons I got along the way was ignore the sword, right? So some people make the breakthrough to, well, it's not just the sword, right? It's not just blades. It could be unarmed against any other weapon, right? So he's got it, I don't. But it goes way, way deeper. And this is not a class for going into this over and over and over. I don't feel like repeating it, right? But the point that I made with everyone is, however you define your training, right? Whatever you're doing, however you define a technique, however you define your training, however you define the process, it's a trap, right? At best, it's a convenient expedient, right? It'll get you through certain things because it's a way to look at it, right? But if you hold on to that, if you, in the dojo, I say, if you get married to your technique, if you get married to whatever that thing is, right? What I mean is you're bonding, right? Then at a certain point, it's going to become a limitation, right? In our Mikyo, right, the Buddha was once known to say that suffering is like a thorn in the palm of your hand, right? The teachings are like another thorn that you take to dig that one out, right? To get rid of the thorn of suffering, the thorn of suffering, thorn of suffering, right? So you dig it out, but once you've done that, you throw them both away, right? What people like to do is they like to hold on to the medicine. They like to hold on to the thing, right? Whether it's, philosophical enlightenment teachings, whether it's the expedients that get you from point A to point B, it doesn't matter. At some point, that's going to become a problem, right? Because medicines are poisons, right? So if we overdo it, that becomes a whole other issue, right? So what I want to do today is take a look at two things, two frameworks. One is an ancient framework, and you might have already been exposed to this, and that's great, but we're going to take a look at it just to make sure that nothing was missing. And then we're going to take a look at another framework that I talk about a lot, right? And what we want to do is get away from this idea, right? And so, again, I'll get to that. I know I'm creating a whole bunch of open loops, but it makes people typically want to stay and keep watching. But if this is not your cup of tea, or if this thing bothers you, or this thing, or that, whatever, right? I wish you well. All right. So, again, today's episode is about breaking your techniques, when and how, right? And the difference and all that, right? So let's get rid of the hat from Togakushi, right? So we're gonna look at two things, right? One is this ancient training framework, right? I use the word framework, right? But you can call it whatever you want, right? So there's an ancient framework called Shuhari, okay? So I'm going to take a look at that. And then this other framework that you might have heard about if you've been around for a little while, right? Kihon Happo, okay? Kihon Happo. We're going to take a look at these as principles for guiding your training, right? And that's the important part, okay? So for Shuhari, I'm actually going to write it out this way. We're going to do, I guess I can do it in any direction. I'll just do it this way, right? So we'll leave shu up here, right? Shu, let's get rid of this. Shu, ha, uri, okay? Shu, ha, ri, right? So ignore Kihon Happo for the moment, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to translate each of these things and then take a look at what the training should look like there. And again, as usual, this leads into stuff we're going to be working on during this Friday's virtual training class, right? But this Friday, we're going to be focusing like in this realm right here, okay? But anyway, the word shu, the kanji for shu in this context, right? Shu, not hand, right? Shu is another translation, right? Okay, so we have to be careful if we just like jump onto a Japanese to English dictionary, right? We need the kanji, but then even Hatsumi Sensei, right, to take us as deep as possible into things and to look at things from different perspectives would often change the kanji, right? So the syllable is the same, right? The way you're saying it's the same, but the meaning is different, okay? So, but anyway, shu, right? So the word shu here means to copy or preserve, okay? In more classical, traditional, I'm using these words loosely, right? Conventional martial arts, right? Do type arts, right? Here's the kata, you don't mess with it, right? There's only one right way, only one right way to do it, okay? And we have a bunch of people running around in ninjutsu doing the same thing, right? Because it's just easier, right? So I'll do it very, very quickly what they mean, and then we'll come back and revisit it quickly, right? So ha, the kanji here, ha, not horse, not mouth. No, I guess that's ka. Ka's mouth, right? It's not the same, right? So ha here means to break. Okay, it means to break. Okay, and ri kanji means to transcend. Make sure I have that spelled right. Right, transcend. Okay, to go beyond. Right, to go beyond something. Right. So here's the thing. People tend to like to jump around, right? If they go to Japan for training, right, and they go to Hombu because it's make them feel all warm and fuzzy to be able to say, I only train with Hatsumi Sensei, right? What most people don't understand is that training at Hombu is what I call seminar style, right? So here's the stuff we're doing today, right? And I don't know, the last bunch of years, I didn't hear Hatsumi Sensei say it nearly as much. And maybe he just got tired of saying it because people just weren't freaking paying attention anyway, right? But what he would say was, I am teaching to when 10th Dan was the highest rank in our art, I'm teaching to the 10th Dans, right? When 15th Dan became the top thing, I'm teaching to the 10th to 15th Dans. I'm teaching to the 15th Dans, right? I'm teaching to the Daishihan, whatever, okay? Whatever the highest level in class is, that's who I'm teaching to, okay? So if you're not there yet, you need to find yourself a Shidoshi or a Shihan or somebody, Shidoshi Ho, whatever, that can teach you the necessary lessons so that you can understand what I'm doing. Right? And of course, in perfect human style, because ego can't, think that anything is real other than what it wants to believe in, does this. Yes, it's a, right? I always do the little horsey thing kind of thing, right? So, but there's this whole process that people go through to get to that level, right? What people want to do, what ego wants to do, is to kind of leapfrog over that, right? So that it can already be this other thing, right? This whole thing in Mikyo from the Tibetan version, right? About the three lords of ego and how one will actually grab spiritual and/or training like this, right? And memorize it so that it can look like it is enlightened, that it already knows. But we want to circumvent the process, right? That's too damn challenging, right? It takes too long. It's uncomfortable. I don't like it, right? I just want to move like that. I just want to be that guy. Okay, but without going through the process that guy went through. Anyway, right? So here's what happens, right? If you're in in the dojo in Japan, like the ones that hold you to task, not the ones who just duplicate what goes on in Hombu, right? Isuke Sensei's dojo, Sendo Sensei's dojo, Someya Sensei, that kind of thing, right? New students, when we're doing kata, right? And again, depending, are we doing first level, second level, or third level transmission of the kata, right? See? there are times when you're in class where it's like, do this. Don't do anything other than this model. Nothing else is right. No henka, no making shit up, no whatever, right? Okay. The idea with the shu level of training is we're going to do our best. We're going to keep working until we can copy the teacher's movement. What if the teacher's wrong? If that's the teacher you chose, then you're going to copy. But how would you know, right? Unless you're somewhere else in the training, how would you know? So, and as long as the teacher's still working on things, everything will work out, right? But we want to copy that movement, right? Okay. Preserve the original intent kind of thing, right? So there's no henka. There's no doing whatever the hell you want. There's no whatever, right? Okay. So, and you might have heard me say this in some of these or in my Kuden podcast or whatever. When it comes to a kata, right? At different points in your training, kata are going to mean different things. And I don't mean the translation of a given kata. I mean what a kata should be as a signpost or a guide for you, right? So there's two different ways to look at it. One from the shu perspective, right? So kata, right? At this level, we look at our kata as expert role models. You want to be an expert? Do it that way. Okay? Do it that way. There's a second translation to it, and it could fit in here, but that's usually like a second or third level transmission when I go through with my students, because then we're looking at fixing and fine tuning and things like that, right? So the other translation, or the other, not translation, but the other way to look at kata in the upper, intermediate, and advanced levels is the kata then are bad habit breakers. So if you're having a problem with the kata, if you're not able to produce it, if you always have to keep falling back on henka, that kind of thing, right? Then it's not the kata, right? The kata are hundreds of years old, right? They've survived that long, right? Yeah, but see, the kata breaks when the guy's like doing a hook punch, or he's, jumping around like a cat on a hot tin roof because he's a taekwondo, or somebody whacked on crack, or whatever, right? So then it doesn't work. Well, see, no, the kata still works. Somebody doesn't understand what the kata is teaching. Okay, so we have to be careful with that, right? Because a kotoryu technique for catching a classical tsuki in one move and moving the person, breaking 3 lines of balance so that you can take them down with one finger, right? That kihon is the same regardless of whether the person's doing that, they're doing an uppercut, or they're doing a right cross. It's all the same. The angle that you move to intercept that strike may be a little bit different. How your arm has to be positioned because of the way the arm is coming in, those kind of things. But what you're doing, the kotsu, the essential nature of it, is exactly the same. Okay. As a matter of fact, the form is 90 to 95% the same. Okay. Anyway, so shoot, copy, preserve, hop, break. What we're doing now is we're literally this whole section right here is where this is going to come in. Okay. The Kihon Happo principle, and I'll get back to that in a minute, right? But what we're doing here is we're not breaking the kata so it doesn't work. What we're doing is running it through a process so that we do it against both sides. We do it against a kick. We do it against a grab. We do it in tight spaces. We do it against weapons, whatever, right? So this is where henka comes in, right? Henka, roughly translated, is variation. Right? And Hazumi Sensei taught on this quite a bit as well, right? There's a huge difference between a henka and doing whatever the hell you want. And it's not that the thing that you're doing, if you have to break from the kata that you're using or the form or whatever, it doesn't mean that that's wrong. But what it means is that's not the same thing. It's not what you were doing. Okay? The thing with when we're working through this process is we make substitutions, right? If you've ever done language study, right, English to Japanese or Spanish or whatever your native tongue is to some other language, right? One of the drills that you can go through for proficiency is to do word substitution, right? So let's say I'm substituting nouns, right? And so instead of saying, where is the door, right? So in Japanese, right, do wa doku desu ka, right? Where is the door, right? And then I might say, there's the door, right? So do wa soku desu, right? So instead of doing that, I could do, dog or cat or whatever, right? So all I'm doing is I'm still practicing the where is, there is kind of thing. But now it's where's the dog? There's the dog. Where's the cat? There's the cat, right? It's the same process. All I'm doing is substituting one word for another because the essence is the same. The idea of where is your brain is searching for something. What there is, your brain has found it and identified it, right? It's not the language, it's the processing, right? So it's the same thing with this, right? A valid valid henka for ichimonji no kata would still be I'm moving to an angle to neutralize the force of his attack. I'm breaking his balance in a certain way, and I'm stepping in, right, to knock them outside this bubble, right? And Gyoko Ryu, one of the principles is to knock them outside of a circle, right? Outside of a bubble that you're in, okay? So it's that kind of thing. Now, does that mean that if I get out of the way and I end up catching him for a wrist reversal and taking them down, that's not a good henka? It's not a henka at all. It's something else. It's not right. It's just not in the same realm, because what we're doing is we're breaking the kata by not getting fixated on it always has to be an omote shito. It always has to be from this side. It always has to be, right? It's not about that, right? What we're doing is developing a mindset that allows us to expand our understanding. And if we understand this process, as I understand it, right, as I was taught to understand it, if I understand it, I only need one technique. And if I run it through the process correctly, I will discover all of the kata on all of the scrolls and then some in the process. The cool thing about having a teacher and having a structured curriculum is you don't have to keep trying to find it, right? A lot of these things are spoon-fed to you. That's a limitation and a crutch as well. That's a trap, because especially if you come from a Western academic kind of process, right? Then what you assume that they're always going to give you the lessons. They're going to give you the answer. So you memorize the question, you memorize the answer, you put them together on a test to show that you know something. Now, what you know is how to memorize a question, how to memorize an answer, and how to match them up. Okay? This takes some failure. There's a whole bunch of stuff going through this, right? Failure, timing, distancing, all that kind of stuff, right? One way to look at breaking is how do I do an ichimonji no kamae or ichimonji no kata against somebody who's a jabber? How do I do it against somebody who throws taekwondo kicks? Front kick, crescent kick, whatever. How do I do it against somebody who's a wrestler? How do I do? Okay, it's just different, right? So the training here is to break our attachment to only one right way, right? Then we transcend. See, this is where the confusion comes in big time, because Hatsumi Sensei over the years has said, throwaway technique, okay? You don't need them, throw them away, okay? But what did I say at the beginning of this? And for those of you who have been signing on, I'm watching my little ticker go up, right? You missed it, okay? He always said, I'm teaching to the highest level of people in the room. Everybody else, you need to try to figure it out, or find a teacher who can teach you the fundamentals that you need to understand the lesson, right? So when he says throw away the kata, throw away the technique or whatever, right? He's talking to the highest level people, and he keeps reminding them that lesson here is to stop getting stuck. Stop trapping yourself. Stop limiting yourself to style, right? What we want to do is go beyond it, okay? In our Mikyo, again, there's this old sutra, right? That there's a mantra at the end, right? Gone beyond enlightenment, right? So you're gone. It's not about enlightenment. It's about that definition. It's about that anchor that's holding you back and holding you down, but you don't know it, right? We need to go not just a little bit beyond it, not just way beyond it, right? So much so that people don't even understand what you're doing. Like when Hatsumi Sensei moves around, right? Anybody ever wonder, like, why can he do that, but I have to do formal kamae? Why do okay? Well, more and more people don't because their teachers didn't think they had to, and their teachers didn't think they had to. Next thing you know, it's just a big old fucking mess. Anyway, so transcend, right? What we're doing is we're going beyond the process, okay? This actually is mirrored in Zen, okay? In Zen, and again, this is roughly translated, in Zen, there's this koan, right? Kind of a poemish kind of thing, right? And what it says is, in the beginning, trees are trees, rocks are rocks, rivers are rivers, mountains are mountains. Okay, that's level one, right? In the beginning, right? To a student of the Enlightenment teachings, trees are no longer trees, rocks are no longer rocks, mountains are no longer mountains, rivers are no longer rivers. But to an enlightened master, trees are once again trees, mountains are once again mountains, rivers are one, right? And this can cause confusion because, well, like, what the hell? Why not just cut out that middle part? Because it sounds like at the beginning and the end, everything's the same. But it's not. It's not. What's different is that process produced a mindset for looking at things. It's very different than that in the beginning kind of thing, right? Because you need that process to break free from mindsets like your friend goes, hey, dude, check out that cloud. And you go, dude, you see one cloud, you've seen them all, right? Or check out that tree. Yeah, tree, right? Can you see the tree? Yeah, I can see the tree. No. Can you see that tree? Or when you look at it, do you just assume tree? I've seen trees like that before. So yeah, okay. But are you looking at that tree? It's the same thing with people, right? Same thing with people. Are we treating new people that come into our lives like the individuals they are? Or are we treating them like people that they look like from our past, they dress like from our past, they sound like from our past, whatever, okay? It's the process. Same thing, kata, okay? The number of students and the number of people that I meet at seminars and all that a kata comes up and they go, oh my God, if I have to do this kata one more time, I'm going to scream. Well, then commence to screaming, okay? Because you're not doing the kata like it's the first time, like it's this person throwing it, the person you are now, Are you watching that punch come at you, or are you watching them move to throw a punch and you're just going to do what you do all the time? Or are you adapting to the one that's coming at you? Are you actually paying attention to the one that's coming? Okay. People often ask Hatsumisu, say way back in the day, why does the tail end of all your kata end up being different? He said, I always set out to do the perfect kamae. I always set out to do perfect angle and all that kind of stuff, right? But something is always different. Something changes, and that causes me to change. All right. So anyway, right. So the traditional model is when I'm training here, do the kata or do whatever even if it's a sono kata, right? Just kind of a contrived model that your teacher made up or whatever. But the goal is to copy your teacher's movement, produce the same thing. No henka, no variation, right? No letting ego determine whether or not you're bored or not, right? No needing to force things, right? Right? It's not just about preserving the lineage, it's preserving that model and getting as close to copying your teacher's movement as possible, right? Ego likes to be entertained, so this is really difficult for a lot of people. Unless they gravitate to these hard form karate kind of schools where if you deviate from this even a little bit, right? Even at third degree black belt and you're way past the white belt kata, if you deviate from it even a little bit, you fail the test, right? It's not that kind of blind discipleship or obedience or whatever. It's do this first, right? Well, sensei, why would I do it that way? Why not this way? Under what conditions would I use this? Whatever, right? Teachers in Japan will go, doesn't matter. Just do it, right? That typically works for the Japanese mind, but not for the Western mind, right? But what they're saying is, until you can do it right, none of those things matter. None of those things matter, right? Then there's this whole other level where we start to look at it from, okay, what if it's a hook punch? What if it's a jab? What if the guy's 6 inches taller than me, has longer legs, has a greater reach, and I can't reach the net to do an omote shito? What if he throws a quick 1-2 combination, right? I'm still going to be doing this, but maybe the strike goes to a different point, right? I start to break it up to where I start to come in a certain way, and then all of a sudden it comes across the other way. If you were in on last Friday's virtual class, that's the kind of stuff we took a look at, right? Touching base on this, okay? All right, and then once we get through this, the whole idea then is to let go of the process, right? Just like I talked about earlier, right? In Buddhism, they see suffering as like a thorn in the palm of the hand. It's one analogy, right? But the teachings sting, right? Teachings from a good teacher, they don't feel good, okay? The problem is everybody wants to feel good. They don't want to be offended. They don't want to be triggered. They're trying to be goddamn warriors, but he hurt my feelings. Well, shit, you're trying to not die. Your feelings? Really? Okay. Please find a different teacher. Okay? But anyway, we want to get past that kind of thing, right? Just like we need to get past worrying about winning or losing. We need to get past this idea of fighting, right? To where we're almost playing with the guy, right? We lose those kind of things to open up greater and greater levels of freedom. So anyway, so let's do this, right? I'm going to leave the hell's my... Be nice if I had all my tools, right? So maybe you took a screenshot. Okay. What I want to do is I want to take a look at the Kihon Happo as a principle for training as opposed to a set of predetermined techniques. Because when I first started training, the Kihon Happo was mentioned, but we had way more than 8 models, and they weren't the same, by the way. They've changed over the years as well. Okay, so as a matter of fact, if you find the pirated copies of the first 2 videos that came out in English, right, on Togakure Ryu Ninjutsu, right? I don't think they were retitled to Bujinkan, right, from way, way back. We're talking like maybe mid-'80s, right? If you look at those and you look at the Kihon Gata that are being taught, right, this Kihon Happo principle, there's not 8. There's more than 8. Same thing with the Sanshin, okay? So this, again, what most people are looking at, right, if you understand Japanese language, having 8 techniques on a list, right, Japanese translation to that is not Happo, it's Happan, 8 things, okay? Kihon fundamentals, right? But this is a principle that comes from the Gyokuryu. And I know I described it last week, so we're going to make this a quick part 2. If you need the rest of that, go back to last week, okay? Look at that video, right? So what we're going to do is take a look at this process that Hatsumi Sensei has been teaching since the first book that came out in English, Ninjutsu History and Tradition, okay? And a bunch of other ones along the way. Takamasa Sensei saying, Kihon Happo is all you need. He's not talking about those 8 techniques. He's talking about something very, very different, right? So this can be used as a framework, and it is a framework for getting to this, right? So the first thing, and most of you have probably experienced this already because you've been around forever. You're already enlightened. I don't know why you're watching. But anyway, right? So people tend to translate this as 8 ways because you see hachi, ho, right? The kanji for hachi, 8, and ho, ways, directions, whatever, right? Except that when it comes together as a contraction, happo, right? That 8 goes from that to that. And for those of you who don't know what that is, that's an infinity symbol, okay? But the same thing happens with all numbers, okay? Roppo, right? Roppo, R-O-P-P-O. Roppo is a contraction of roku ho, roppo. Okay, so it can still mean 6 ways, 6 directions, but it points to different directions, right? So if we have Roppo Tobi, right, 6 directional leaping, sometimes it's called Shiho Tenchi Tobi, right? Shiho 4 directions, 10 up, Chi down, right? Heaven, earth, that kind of thing, right? When it goes to Roppo Tobi, right, what it's talking about is being able to leap in any frickin' direction from where you happen to be standing. It's not about 6 or 4 or whatever anymore, okay? Very, very different, okay? Very, very different. All right, so let's get rid of all this stuff because I'm going to need some space, all right? So since we were talking about Ichimon's no kata, that's going to be our little, hey, look, ink. Ichimonji no kata, right? So this is our form, whatever that thing is that we picked up here in the shu level, right? The Kihon Happo process is making at least 8 variations of that model. At least 8 variations. At least. Okay? Then every single model, I'm only going to pick one on here, right? Every single model, every one of those variations, we make 8 variations of those. And every one of those, right? Again, I'm only going to pick one. Right? We're going to make 8 variations of those. Each. This will keep you busy for a while. Okay? So, again, here's what Hatsumi Sensei was talking about. You only need one. He could write an entire book on one kata. One kata. Meanwhile, back at the farm, 98% of the damn practitioners in this art are running around all proud because they keep collecting kata. Like collecting stamps. Like they can run around and go, look, it's a full book. Right? Fantastic, right? What can you do with it? The whole idea is with this process is that this original model just becomes another variation, right, in this thing, because what we're trying to get through form limitation, and this process and what allows the transcendence to happen is we're trying to break through to something called kotsu. Not bone, not sternum, right? Kotsu, it's one of the primary principles within the whole art, right? We have nagare, flow, we have ritsudo, rhythm, breath, timing, that kind of thing, right? And we have kotsu. Kotsu is essence, the essential nature of, right? What is the singular commonality to all of these things? And it's not the kamai, it's not the whatever, okay? Because through this process, you start to figure out that, like kosei no kamai, right, from Kukishinden school, right? Kosei is a mid to close range version of Seigan no kamai. But Seigan, called katate hicho no kamai in Kukishinden school, right, is the same. Kosei and Seigan are the same, right? We just have a difference in range and use of armor or not, right? And what we're eliciting, what we're inviting him to do, right? Because, again, I did previous classes on this, right? At the shu stage, remember, copy, right? I'm not even going to write preserve, right? This is about you. How to move your body. How to make sure that you can get from point A to point B, that kind of stuff, right? To copy it. The ha stage is about him. It's about your environment. We're changing all these variables, right? So we can apply this in some form where we are, who we are, how we dressed, how are they dressed, weapons involved, are we between parked cars, hell, are we just getting out of our car, whatever, right? How do we do that kind of thing? It's about him, right? And ri, this transcending, just becomes open, right? Freedom. Anyway, freedom, right? So I don't know why the hell my brain just went there. So freedom, right? But this is both about you and him, but it's about this back and forth exchange, right? And being able to fit in and be free to do what's necessary in the moment, right? Literally, it looks like you just made it up because you did. You combined Kihon and Kihon no Kihon, fundamentals of the fundamentals. I've done a video on that, right? Find that, right? It's combining these based on the situation, based on the dictates of what's going on, okay? We're being carried by the winds of change. Budo winds, Budo nerves as opposed to conventional everyday nerves kind of thing. It's all, again, Hatsumi Sensei's translated this stuff so many different ways, right? But what we're looking at is this, right? So I'll leave you with a couple of things. We're gonna work on these things on Friday. So if you can make it in for if you can make it in for that class, that'd be awesome, right? And if not, well, I gave you enough shit to work on for a long time. All right, you never have to come back for another Whiteboard Wednesday again. Right. So one way to do this, and I know it's unfashionable typically in the Bujinkan, right, is to use the Godai. Can you guys see that? Let me see on there. Yeah, kind of, right? Let's use something different. Okay. I want to make sure that everybody can see it, right? Using the Godai 5 elements. And I know that's not the way they do it in Japan. That's not official. I don't give a shit. I'm trying to make things expedient for students to learn things quickly, right? So let's say I learned a kata like Ichimonji no kata, right? And this is, we kind of look at this from the perspective of being a water technique. It's a responsive technique, that kind of thing, right? But we could do it from an earth standpoint. We could also do it from a fire standpoint. We could also do it from a wind standpoint. We could also do it from a void standpoint. Well, what the hell is that? Well, what about your processes of thinking and communicating? How would you de-escalate? What is the essence of Ichimonji no kata that you could use it in a verbal exchange that would still do the same thing without smacking the guy, right? That would do the exact same thing that the physical model teaches. Okay? You could do that, right? And of course, we're going to make sure that we do it left and right side on both, right? We could do it from the perspective of the attacks, right? Are coming in high, mid, or low, right? Left side, right side. We could do the attacks based on the attack. You'll see I've got another Whiteboard Wednesday coming up. We're going to break down the 4 areas of training for striking, for any given strike, and the 3 variables that fit into each one of those. So you end up with 12 variables, which means that you have 81 different ways to deliver any given fist or foot or whatever, right? So, but high, mid, low, right? We could do that. We could also make it so that, because everybody tends to focus on these classical kind of things, right? Which is a straight piercing kind of an attack, right? But what about a hooking attack? How would you do the same kata against that? Because I promise, if you're doing Seigan or something, this form of kind of Ichimonji, right? Against a big old haymaker, right? This angle at the naname that you're doing off of a straight line, not going to work. Okay? This will get broken down. You'll be off balance, and you're going to be set up for that next thing he's coming in for, right? So how will we do it from there? How will we do it if it's a clubbing kind of thing where he's coming in that way, right? Of course, it could be, a hooking kind of kick. It could be one of these axe kicks, whatever, right? Okay? There's all different kinds of variations. But if you just started off with high, middle, low, left, and right, you now just expanded things tremendously, and you're on your way to building these, right? But it's not just about striking, right? What if he grabs single hand? What if he grabs double hand? What if he whatever, right? And then let's see. I think I did this before, but I'm going to do this. You're about to feel like an earthquake, right? In our dojo, see that? We have an asterisk on the floor. Okay, can you see it? Okay. I don't like my head being chopped off. Okay. An asterisk on the floor. 4 cardinal directions, 4 diagonal directions, 8 directions. Okay? Even if I'm just working a kamae. I don't know which direction the attacker is coming from, so what's the initial start point, right? What's the... I think I lost the plug here. Nothing like glitches, right? Glitches can be... Anyway. All right. So the idea is we change the variables and we create things that allow us to hit a point. The way this was introduced to me as a white belt was, let's just say that we're working the kamae. So we're in Kihon no Kihon and not like one of these big models, right? Kihon, I can take up kamae, Ichimonji no kamae, Jumonji no kamae, whatever, right? From any number of not attacks, but types of punches, right? White crane kung fu coming in or whatever, right? Okay. The whole idea is I practice going to this kamae and I experience as many different attacks as possible so that the chances in an actual life or death, maiming, whatever kind of situation, the chances of me seeing a punch, kick, grab, or whatever that I've never not only seen, but I've never practiced avoiding in given kamae, so I'm set up for that next thing. The chances of that happening are slim to none. This is not about memorizing damn techniques, unless that's your focus, in which case, ignore everything else I'm saying. And I'm okay with that, right? But people tend to like to stop here because, see, I can look good, and then it's easy to define what's right and wrong. It's much harder if you don't know what the essence, what the kotsu of the technique is, to look at one person doing it one way, one person doing it another way, and look and step back and go, yeah, they're both the same. Okay. Manaka Sensei mentioned that one time in Japan. He was talking about that we were doing very specific kata, and he actually started the class off going, "This is the way I do this kata." Shirai Sensei does it a little differently. Seno Sensei does it this way, whatever. And Hatsumi Sensei's never said anything about it because it's just word descriptions on a scroll. So it doesn't say which angle. It doesn't say whatever, right? What it does say is, here's how I'm engaging them. And I'm supposed to know what gets produced, right? So I know I just wrote all over the freaking place here, but you get the idea, right? So how and why to break the techniques. Here's the how, right? Why? So I can get to a point where on one side, I'm not trapped by some preset stylized thing. That's like a kid's bicycle loaded up with training wheels in the front and the back. Because the process is supposed to be, okay, get on here, learn how to hold it, learn how to steer, learn how to pedal, learn how to brake, how to get on, how to get off without killing yourself, right? Then, as you start to get better and better at maneuvering with this thing, we're going to systematically start taking training wheels off until eventually you got it. But then the transcendence is people ride bikes, right? What do you graduate to? Some do mountain bike hiking. Some do, what do they call that? Grand touring, right? Some people do racing. You get the idea, right? Some people graduate to a damn unicycle, right? Some people start doing tricks and stunts and all that kind of stuff, right? So you get the idea, right? Okay. Anyway, I'm going to keep this one short, well, shorter than usual, right? We're at about what, 45 minutes, 44 minutes, give or take, okay? So if you have any questions, comments, or whatever, you can always shoot it in to me. You can leave comments on the online Ninjutsu Training Facebook page or Facebook group page if you're in that group. And if not, why the hell not, right? If you're getting this through the Kuden podcast page, you can leave it there. If you're on YouTube, you can leave it there. If you just, want to get in touch with me more privately or whatever, you can shoot an email to warriorc@warrior-concepts-online.com. What the hell's my thing here, right? Can you see it? It's hidden. You know what? This is how a lot of the secrets and stuff were done in Japan through Mikyo and all that, right? They would write one kanji, and then they would write another one right on top of it. And if you didn't know that was happening, you'd never find that damn kanji. You'd have no idea what that said, when instead of writing it like this, they wrote it like this. So it's actually written this way, not this way. Slick shit, huh? Anyway, right? Warrior C at, I'll give you a little heads up here. What the hell's my stuff? I know. I have sloppy handwriting. Put up with it. Warrior Concepts with an S. Stop sending me flaming emails because you can't spell. Warrior Concepts Online.com. I sent you a message and you didn't respond to it. Okay, well, now I'm getting it through the IM or the PM on Facebook, but whatever emails you sent, I can get them. If I didn't get them, that means you either misspelled them or you've got a crappy email service provider, right? Or you put shit in your email that my security software filtered out. Okay? What modern day ninja does not have security procedures in place and or have a good lawyer on standby? especially if you live in a country that's litigious like the U.S., right? Okay. So anyway, that's this week's lesson. Hopefully it serves you well. I have to finish up the page for, I think I have to finish up the page for registering for the Friday virtual training. There's the little URL right there. If you want to get on it, great. Give me about an hour, right? If you're live on this thing, right? Give me about an hour, because right now it's about 3:46 p.m. on Wednesday, April 13th, right? So give me about an hour to make the little tweaks. Probably I won't even need that, 15 minutes to a half an hour. But in about an hour, you can check back in, click the little link, right? The classes are like $4.99, right? For a 60 to 90 minute class this Friday. And even if you can't make it, you'll get lifetime access. We're going to send you the link to have forever access to the lesson anyway. So even if work pops up or whatever, you can still do it. All right. That's it. I will talk to you again next week on Warriors Whiteboard Wednesday. Until then, be well, train hard, stop screwing around and wasting your time. All right. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.